Hi there everyone, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Trinity Stamps video. Today we're going to be combining some fun products to make a card that's a little bit different, but I really like how it turned out. I'm going to be using the Cosmic Carrots stamps and dies. This one's fairly new, and I just love those little bunnies in there and how they're in little rocket ships and the retro feel of it all. I'm going to pair it up with the Celebration Cupcake stamp and die, and that stamp is a little bit older. And then we also have our Slimline Scenic borders. I'm going to use one of them that I think it's designed for bushes or even clouds, but I'm going to use it for dirt. So we're going to go ahead and die cut this out. We're going to speed things up a little bit. We're going to go double time, and yeah. So I started out by cutting that out of some brown cardstock. I have a piece of blue cardstock that measures 4 inches by 5 1/4, so it's a little bit smaller than an A2 size card. And I am going to splatter this. This is my sky, I guess. And I've got some Jack-o'-lantern Distress Mica. And all I want is some little dots of that all over that background. It's going to add a little shine, and it's going to just kind of break up that background a little bit. Almost look like some orange stars. That's what I'm kind of going for. And we'll set that off to the side to dry while we stamp out all of our images. So I've got some Express It cardstock, and I'm going to put that into my Misty. And I'm going to bring out the Cupcake from our Celebration Cupcake stamp. And then from our Cosmic Carrots, we're going to bring in this cute little rabbit who is in the spaceship. And then we're going to bring in various carrots as well, and I'll stamp several of those by themselves. I've got some Simon Hurley Create Stellar ink. This is the Black Widow. It works really well with alcohol markers. I've been playing around with that a little bit lately. And so we're going to go ahead and get started with our coloring. Now, I want to apologize up front. Every once in a while, you're going to see my camera shake. So currently we live on a training Army base, and today was a big day for training. And so there were a lot of booms going on in the background, and it does shake my camera. I'm so used to it, I barely notice it. I definitely didn't even notice the shaking until doing the editing. So I didn't notice it while I was making the card, that's for sure. All right, so we're coloring in our carrots. I'm going to have a little mishap here with some of that orange. It spits out onto my carrot. I wasn't paying close attention. I've talked about this several times using these Olo markers, which I do love. I love how juicy they are. But you do sometimes have to watch the tip of your marker, especially if you're working with tiny fine lines. It has a tendency to, the ink has a tendency to pool. And if you see your tip getting nice and shiny, it tells you it's about to spit out a little bit of ink. So I just keep a microfiber cloth close by, and when I see it get a little too shiny, I stick it onto that microfiber cloth just to kind of soak up some of that. I would rather have mine be too juicy than dry, personally, because I've had a lot of markers in the past that have dried. All right, so as you can see, I'm putting those colors up on the screen for you. Doing something like this, I really don't have a lot of problems. It's only when I start to do that tiny detail work, like this one, I'm starting to look at the nib going, oh, are you gonna spit out? And so I will grab my microfiber cloth, and I'll just dab it, and then I'll just keep going. And then I'm gonna work backwards. So I started with, when I colored, I started with that light YG, went to the middle YG, and then the dark one, and then I work backwards, going with the light, and then or the middle one, and then the lightest one, so that I can blend those colors out and get that good blend. It's really pretty. Kind of dramatic, but I really like it. All right, then we'll go on to coloring the cake. I want this to be, you guessed it, a carrot cake. So we are decorating the giant cake, and I'm going to put those little carrots on top of the icing. So I had this idea in my head, and I thought, well, this is kind of fun. I love looking through my stamps and maybe pairing things up that you wouldn't necessarily put together. Like this giant cupcake. Would you really put that typically with this little flying saucer bunny? Maybe not, but I was so happy with how this card turned out. It just made me so happy. All right, we're moving on with some more colors. I'm not doing the best job of putting every color up on the screen now. I guess I'm just kind of in mode of coloring. But we're trying to stick with that same color palette. We've got some oranges, we've got those greens, we've got the grays, and it's a little bit of pink bringing it in. So there's the booms, as you can see, and they're going to get a little bit more frequent here. And it does shake my camera, so I do apologize. All right, we'll about finish him up. We'll color up the rest of the spaceship. We're going to use some warm grays. And I'll just bring in one darker warm gray for that, and we'll be just about done. But this little bunny just has me so happy. He's so cute and he looks so excited. Oh. All right, I'm going to bring in some vellum, and I do want to, because I wanted a little bit of transparency here, so I used a anti-static powder tool on my vellum, stamped it with that black Widow Stellar ink, covered that quickly with some clear embossing powder, and then I'm going to heat set that until that is nice and shiny. And then I'm going to do some more embossing on some black sentiment stock. I'll ink up the word celebrate. This is going to be a birthday card, and we'll stamp out the word celebrate, and then we'll cover that with some fine detail white embossing powder, and then we'll heat set that till that is smooth and melted. After everything has been stamped and colored and embossed and all of that, we're going to bring in the matching dies from both of the sets, both of those Celebration Cupcake and the Cosmic Carrots, and we will tack everything down with a little bit of mint tape, and we'll run that through our die cutting machine. Now, I did stamp out the carrots several times, so I'll have to run that through a few times. Everything is nice and dry, so I've got a card base, just a white card base that measured 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, and I did score it at 4.25, so it is a side folding A2 sized card. I will use a little bit of liquid glue to adhere down my blue panel to the front of my card base, and then I'm going to glue down my dirt. So obviously this is longer than it needs to be, so I'm just going to glue down the part that I want, and then we'll just flip that over and trim off the excess using some scissors. And then we can start kind of building our scene. So I'm going to go ahead and glue down my cupcake. He's in the little carrot patch because you see I have the little sign that says that it's a carrot patch. And we'll stick one of the carrots inside the dirt, and then we'll glue down our sign. And then I'm going to bring in an Olo marker just to add a little bit of depth, just so it looks like there's some shadowing where the cupcake and our little sign are. And then I'm going to take the rest of those carrots, and we're going to glue those on the top of the cream cheese frosting. Just moving those around. Carrot cake happens to be my husband's favorite cake, and there are a couple different recipes I've tried for him. He just loves carrot cake, and even when we were married 26 years ago, the groom's cake was a carrot cake. He was so thrilled. All right, I'm gluing down the vellum piece behind our little spaceship, and because it's vellum, it will show any of that glue, so you do have to be careful where you put it. So what I'm going to do is when I put my carrot down on top, I can put the glue behind the carrot. I can also put the glue on the spaceship, and then I'm actually going to put 2 dots of it right in the corners of the little beam. So it looks like he's beamed up a little carrot from the top of the carrot cake. I'm going to use some adhesive foam strips behind the word celebrate, and then I'll peel off the release paper once I get all those on there, and then we can stick it down. I do have a little mishap with that, keeping in mind that this is a very thin word, and I have lots of foam tape on the back of it. I put it down and didn't like where it was, so I tried to peel it up, and I do tear the word. But I just kind of stick it back down. So it's torn, but it's okay. I'm just going to stick it right over the top, and no one will be the wiser. You can't really tell. I do want to stamp on the inside, so I'm going to grab in some Guppy Simon Hurley Creates Stellar ink, and I'll ink up our little rabbit who's inside the carrot rocket, and we'll stamp that on the inside of our card, just to have a little something something in there. And then that's actually going to finish off our card for you for today. I like I said, grabbing different things that may not necessarily go together, but I do love how this turned out. That giant carrot cupcake. This rabbit is so excited for his carrot, and I would love to know what you think of this card. If you like this video, please hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And be sure to check out all that Trinity Stamps has going on over on their blog, Facebook page, and Instagram for more crafty inspiration. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you soon.